If we could close up the shops in the back, we are ready to, I get my 15 minutes first. And then the experts can refute what I say for the next 9 hours. If you know this little song, please feel free to join me. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And it is a great day this morning. I would thank everybody for being here with us. I hope those that were here yesterday had a good time, and those that stayed last night enjoyed the show. For the ones that are here just joining us, the emergency exits, either door, either side, any door, and just keep going. Except the middle door over here. This one, you have to jog left as you go out. Restrooms, out this front door, turn right, turn left, women on the left, men on the right. If you want more exercise, you walk across the hall and check the signs. We left room, as always, on the back of the bio sheets. And as always, I'm not going to read the bio sheet to you. And everybody's got interesting bios. I enjoy editing them every year. On the back, you'll find there's room for your notes. We're shooting for 15-minute breaks. If you haven't checked it, if you haven't never found it, you might enjoy looking at ClaritinMurals.com. There's a lot of information on there. Some of the past presenters, parts of their stuff are on there. Tape about the Liberty Trail, if you want to see what that's all about, if you missed it yesterday. Once again, we're honored to have Elwood Owens manning the cameras, and I gave his great history yesterday, but and I don't see David around. There he is. Could we have 3 huzzahs? Thank you. Sales area, the folks with the books. The round table over on the side here, in fact, half of it has been taken over by the South Carolina Round Table, which is fine. If you've never heard of a round table organization and so forth, stop by and see them, and maybe at lunchtime we can get Ron to come up and tell you a little bit. Or if we can get David or Doug to Charles actually to come up. I think they started it, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
At lunchtime, we'll have anybody has a thought of something that is they want to give to the good of the whole organization. Let me know. We'll give you 5 or 10 minutes while folks are eating. Afterwards, after lunch, we have time for a add-on with the usual picture taking. And we'll start with the doing it as diplomatically as I can imagine. We'll do it by sort of data rank. And the oldest organization that I believe is the SR, followed by the SAR, followed by the DAR, and then we will, is there anybody here that was in the military during the Vietnam era that did not get a DAR pin? 1, 2, okay, after the picture taking, the DAR ladies will have pins for you all. We heard Charles Baxley, those that were here yesterday, heard him talk about the 250th Commission and the need to incorporate everybody. And Carol and I have been talking about this for several years and slowly creeping out away from the mainstream of Francis Marion beat the crap out of everybody and trying to incorporate other things that were going on in that period. And I think last night we went outside and it was really a good show. We'll have another one tonight that talks about things that were going on during that period. And our first presenter this morning is going to talk about something else. If I understand it, it was slightly after the revolution, but I think he's going to explain all that. Jeff, you want to come up here and do your tap dance?
Cut into my time.
Give you 30 seconds.
That's about how long. Anyway, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
I'm going to speak about Andre Michaux. How many people know who Andre Michaux was? Just the educated. Andre Michaux was one of the places he did his garden was in Charleston, which is where our interest comes from. And you guys all know that everything leads to Charleston. They know right and wrong, they have the data, but they don't have the facts right. Okay, so Andre Michaux was born in France near Versailles, and there's a large connection to Versailles. His father, next slide. Okay. Bonjour mes collègues, historiens et étudiants de la guerre révolutionnaire. And you know I'm not pronouncing this correctly, right?
Can
Ed,
you
wanna
use
read
your
it?
mic better?
Okay, I will. I'm sorry. Ed, do you want to read this?
Any native French speakers?
Wow.
Well, here's the point.
I got in college with one semester of French, so I don't know much French.
7th and 8th grade, that's
Got
better.
in.
My French class, I walked in, there were 4 people. You can't sit behind somebody when there's 4 people. Okay, this is what this says. Good morning, my fellow historians and students of the Revolutionary War. This afternoon is with my special emphasis on the part botany played during my times. I learned English quickly, but still felt most comfortable in my native French. I myself, Francois, lived in with a family for a while to learn English. I traveled along with John Fraser, who was a very important also botanist, who spoke very bad English and was a curmudgeon. And later on, I'll tell you, they parted ways. But who could understand his strained English, as well as his abrasive personality? You know, we French have a touch of arrogance. We all know that.
We all know that.
Yes, sir. So if you want to read my journals, you must educate yourself in the French language. Which is why you all don't know who Andre Michaux is. His journals were in French. They're very difficult to read. But Charlie, who's on the line here, and his friends did it. Oh, jeez. Where did it?
Turn it off, it's the bottom left.
Okay, turn it back on.
The French must be listening. May we? C'est la guerre.
Okay. All my journals are in French. My specimen collections are in Latin. You know. So do your best, Charlie Williams. Hey, Charlie Williams. He's in my... Hey, man. Okay. His new book just came out. You can tell I read it.
Thanks for that.
Jeez. That went all the way to the end. Okay, I'll try to do better. He was well educated. He was found early to be an excellent botanist, even though he was young, 12, 13. King Louis XVI sent him to what became the Jardin de France. He trained with the two best botanists in France. How do you say their names? I don't know. And remember, his father was a botanist. And you're going to see this, and I'm not going to explain all this. You're going to see this in a lot of botanists. There's a string of them, like father, son, grandson. He was sent to Persia by the king. He was very observant of nature, but he was also observant of politics. Observant, and I'm not saying well, but good at it. He brought back a stone very similar to the Rosetta Stone that's now in the French Museum, and those are two languages there. Our library in Charleston has some of his son's stuff from those trips there, the original copies. He had wide-ranging skills, and he was a rugged frontierman, and it's hard to overestimate how rugged this dude was. He went places he shouldn't go. He went to Persia, he was chased, people stole his horses. It's a long, long story. But anyway, a lot of skills. Now, he was going to go back to the Middle East. He spent 3 years there. Louis XVI sent him here because they wanted to know about the plants. Commercial. Okay? Now, the background of this is he's not by himself. There's a long series of botanists. This is John Lawson, who was an early one, and you see his trip to the left. Some of his illustrations became very famous. John Clayton, same. You start seeing similarities here of the beauty that these people did. So they published. They had specimens. That's a oak leaf hydrangea. He was in Williamsburg, but they traveled all through here. John Fraser was very famous. Early on, went with Michaux. They separated ways near Savannah. This guy, John Fraser, published a book by Walters, which I'm going to mention in a minute. I'm going to mention it right now. Here's another hydrangea, not oak leaf hydrangea, his book. Now, there's a very interesting thing here. They wanted to know what the connection is with Michaux and Marion. And I can't see this, but if you can. This is his place. Read who that is. Joe Marion. So Walters lived next to Joe Marion. Also, there's a Porsche above that. If you all know botany from around here, there's Porsches everywhere. So the connections for Michaux and the Revolution are all over the place. But he didn't write that stuff down. He didn't write, I just saw that portrait. No. Because someone would come back and read the journal and say, hey, you're a rebel. And John Walters was 2 miles from this place. Well-known botanist. He knew his work. But there's nothing in the journals that said he saw him. William Bartram, everybody heard of that? Yeah. Old Billy number 1. But Bartram was ahead of him, and later I'll show you a good friend of his. But they all had books, they all had specimens, they all had beautiful, beautiful writings. Here's one you don't know, Luigi Castelloni. Hey, Charles, I said I'd have that in there. I've never heard of this guy. But he was very famous too, so there's a lot of these people we don't know, you know, are not around. Mark Catesby, heard of him? No, heard of him, I'm sorry. He had an exhibition down at the Art Museum. When you see his stuff up close, you see good stuff. This is a great, great artist. Now, when he came, he had introductions. This is the connections. It's like Charlie. You know, he knows everybody. Not this Charlie. Okay, so he came and he was given letters of recommendation by the Marquis. You know, as you know, is the richest man in France at the time. The interesting thing about this is this picture. He's no beauty. You know, that guy's ugly. And you see his pictures early on. They're all this little pretty boy and like that. No, he wasn't very pretty. This is from, I think, 1830 or something like that. So Michaux came to New York. This is a map of New York about that era. He came and immediately started collecting plants. This dude was an academician, you know. He started collecting plants. He was sending plants back within a month. And the New York part relates to shipping. Okay? He started looking for a garden spot because his world is gardens. He found one in New Jersey, which
The Garden State.
2 years later he was very sorry he picked New Jersey.
That's Jersey.
Georgia. This is a picture of his house. They have a picture of his house. This is a picture of his lot. It's across the something river in New Jersey. Schuylkill. Never got that. This is a picture of the Garden of Plants, and it's put in there because that tree was planted from the seed. Michaux left, and I have some parts of that tree. But the idea of this is these gardens all interconnected. It's like the Revolutionary War. They all connected. They all knew each other. This is a plant request for plants. So they would send each other letters. Washington would send them letters. I want this, Middleton, and the camellias. So the camellias came from Michaux in Middleton, or one of them. All right. Charleston then became a hub of his travels. And when I first started this, I tried to really review all these trips and stuff. It just, I'm just overwhelming. But Charleston became the spot. Okay? And his American journeys, went to the Bahamas, Canada, way over here to talk to famous people, which I'll get to in a minute. His first trip was a short one. So who did he meet? Cousin Ben Franklin. One of my kids married his sister. Then he went to see Bartram in Philadelphia. Okay? Very famous at the time, and those two became very close. Very close. And George Washington, he went down to Mount Vernon and saw George Washington. This is a life cast, or death mask. Okay? So his first trip out of Charleston, he went up in the high country, 78 days, 108 specimens, and he started finding all kinds of specimens that no one had seen before. Now that's ratio-centric because the Indians had seen them all, and lots of them were. So in New York, he and his son, a French gardener, and possibly an unknown woman. Now I can read between the lines. And the trip over was this lady named Sprocklock. And nothing else was said about it. Well, I noticed also when he went from New York to Charleston, also with a woman. And in the census of 1790, a lady was living there. It just said, and a woman, you know, that's how important it is.
He is French.
Huh?
He is French.
Okay. Okay. This is Charleston. Is placed, I can't read this slide very well, but it was up in here. Basically across from Middleton, straight in the hall in there. This is his New Jersey place, which this is a representative of where it is. It is now gone. And as I said to somebody earlier, the place we have is going to be gone too, because they're going to put a damn road through it to go to Bowen. And you know the only person standing up? Moi. You know, those things, you can't put it back. This is a plat of his garden, and all these landmarks and things here. All these landmarks here, landmarks which later people used to come back and find the garden because it became lost for 100 years. And that's down, and you can actually touch that, down in whatever it's called. So his second trip, he went back to the Bartrams. The Bartrams were William Bartram and his father. There we go. Now, the person I'm going to add in here is William Hamilton. William Hamilton's house was that far from Michaux. And he had money. You're going to hear this over and over and over with Michaux. He had trouble with money, and the king didn't always send him stuff. In 1793, there ain't no king. You know, so he struggled with money. So did you, Charlie. All right, so that was the hub. Okay. The point of this slide is sort of showing us more likely. You can see some of the places along the routes that Michaux went. And note this here, Bartram's route. So Bartram and he talked a lot about where to go, where to get plants, and they would tell each other, hey, you need to go, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay? He went to Canada, met the person, Peter something or other, which I'm going to mention in a minute. So he found these people. He found the guy that made the map of Canada. You know, and all of his travels, actually, when you go back and look, these are the basically representative of the amount of time he went on his trips. So he was extremely productive. He spent sometimes, you know, like a half a year or so, but fundamentally was very efficient. And you know, he'd go up the mountains. How do you get those plants back? Think about it. You had a wagon. Sometimes it had a horse. Sometimes it didn't. You know, sometimes it had some Indians helping. But he carted all this stuff around. Okay, now the point of this lecture is Michaux fundamentally knew the revolutionaries. Okay? When you go back over this, it's not directly mentioned, but all of a sudden you start realizing all these people fought in the Revolutionary War in one way or another. And I'm not saying all of them. I've counted about 10 that he stayed with that fought with Marion. Okay? So this is Colonel Avery, and he's well known in the high country, an old revolutionary. Colonel William Wofford of the militia found another Wofford's Ironworks, which there was a battle there. Up the Over Mountain men camped in his yard. Okay? And all these things, you know, people know. Colonel Wrightstill, again, another Revolutionary War person, that he would stay with him every time he went that way. And I can only imagine the discussions. Just think about what you're going to talk about. These people aren't going to talk about Bible. Andre Guillebeau fled the King of France, fought in the Revolutionary War, and I know Leon and I talked with him, but it's really hard tracking down exactly what they did in the Revolutionary War. Christian Reinhardt, anybody heard of him? Charles has heard of him. I can't see you back there, Charles, but I was going to pick on you.
Brad Snow.
Yeah, and we've been there, and everybody that's been there seen his cabin. This is his replica of the cabin. So there was a battle fought between his buddies. I don't know exactly what side it was on. But I saw that picture, and I've been there, and that was so sweet. John Tipton, house is still there. Let's see, served as a recruiting officer and a member of the Virginia House of Burgess. And he was an integral part of the Franklin thing against Sevier or whatever that guy's name is. Dr. Alexander took care of the cabin. That was a late addition. His father presided over the Mecklenburg Conference. I assume everybody knows what it is. He went to Princeton with James Madison and Aaron Burr. You know, this boy where did he get this? Where did he get these connections? He's some French gardener. He took care of the cab. One of the first trustees of the University of South Carolina, which may or may not be an honor. He met Andrew Jackson when he went to Tennessee, when Jackson was a young attorney. And you know about Jackson's, getting hit with the sword by the British guy at the Waxhaws or wherever that is. And I put in there, either born in South Carolina or North Carolina, as we know on the line. But Charleston is trying to say he was born there, so we have to watch those guys. This is Peter Pond and his map of Canada. You know how we have our history, we kind of forget about the Canadian history and the British history. But this dude made the map, and Michaux followed it. And some of these things kind of relate to the discomfort between the British and the Americans. This is an affair that is having a book written as we speak. So Michaux and Jefferson and the APS, everybody know what the APS is? American, what, society? Physiological? Huh? Philosophical Society. But anyway, so Jefferson wanted Michaux to be Lewis and Clark. Okay? And I'll tell you in a minute why it didn't happen. But Michaux had all the characteristics. He was rugged, he knew maps, he knew the Indians, he knew language. And that's actually Jefferson's writing. Genet was from the new Republic of France, whatever they called it, after the beheading of the 16th king. And he was sent to America as basically the ambassador. He became minister. France was at war with England and Spain, which is important here. Jefferson sent him with Genet to go to the Mississippi and up there exploring the Spanish territory because Spain had blocked New Orleans. They couldn't get out, so people weren't real happy with Spain, and of course the Americans wanted Canada. Well, he went out there to Tennessee, I think he's from Tennessee, to George Rogers Clark, whose brother is the Clark that went on Lewis and Clark. He was well-known, kind of down on his luck, needed some oomph, and he was trying to get Michaux was trying to get him to support, going out west. He had a letter of recommendation from Jefferson to Isaac Shelby to Clark. So these, Jefferson's giving letters of recommendation in the Marquis of Lafayette. And of course, he was famous for his King's Mountain and thing. Now this is the one area in the book, okay? You all remember this area. This is the APS Society's list of people that gave Michaux money for his trip. Okay? And Charlie has that in his book. Unfortunately, he didn't recognize this name right here. Jared Ingersoll. That's my kin. My kin gave money to Michaux. Is that cool or what?
So did my wife.
Did you?
Brother Morris.
Oh yeah, he's up there too. I keep forgetting that.
How much, Jeff?
Who said that?
Who's our?
Unfortunately, I'm going to ask you to leave. $8. And that one I just showed you was actually the first payment list. There was a couple lists. One is what he owed, and the other is what he actually. I'm sorry. Keep coming. But so that was just a happy night when I saw that, to say the least. Now, so what happened was, Michaux went out there, saw these people, and it was intriguing. And this guy, Genet, wasn't a real happy person, he pissed people off. He went to Russia to the Queen there, and they pissed him off because it was the revolutionaries first harmonicas. Okay? But anyway, that didn't work out. And that put the big oomph on Michaux, in his reputation. Okay, summing up here, going back to Charleston. So Michaux had his garden in Charleston. This is it. This was a lot of fun, the metal detect, and do stuff. Now, the story of this is, it got lost. So Michaux was there, everybody knew he had a Charleston garden, but they didn't know where it was. So there was some guy that just looked, found the plaque, found the things, and when he in 1906 or something came to look, this is a magnolia tree at his plot, which is now at the end of the airport runway. Okay? Very famous tree. This is the plot of Michaux's place that we have. It was a triangle, 111 acres, so they say. And if you look at this from the old plats, you can see the road. This is the archaeologists that are surveying it for the new road to go to Boeing. I got that clandestinely. Come to the mic. All right, but anyway, they've looked hard. We looked hard. Here's LiDAR of the area. This is Aviation Boulevard. This is the area here.